Hey gang, Deadhead Dan here. I'm going to talk to you about a heavier topic, how to find a higher power. This came up in a meeting with local treatment center clients last night, and in recovery, that's sort of the keys of the kingdom is finding that connection to a power greater than us. I've talked a little bit in these videos. I struggled for 10 years in and out of recovery, relapses, treatment centers from 2008 to about 2015. Finally went to a long-term facility in May of 2015 and have been sober since, almost 10 years. Not saying it's all been puppies and rainbows along the way, but I do have my sobriety as I sit here, despite some of the obstacles and challenges I've probably created myself and put in my life over the last few years. But looking back, it's a lonely place to be when you're in meetings and everybody's talking about God doing for themselves what they couldn't do, or God doing for them what they couldn't do for themselves, and just all sorts of references to leaning on a higher power for strength and courage and just attributes when needed. And I just didn't feel I had that. I was raised Catholic, went to church every week growing up, had all the sacraments, but God was always kind of an intellectual exercise. I could sort of think about it up here, but never really felt it here. And it's getting to the point, where I had that gift of desperation at the end there. That last time in treatment, I was facing prison, I was facing divorce, had already ruined my career. Pretty much all the external consequences were bubbling to the top, and that speaks nothing of how crippled inside I felt. Just the fear was my puppet master, and I couldn't even go put gas in my car without having to get loaded. It's just sort of how it is at the end. Um, so some of the things that helped, the biggest thing was just keeping an open mind. I didn't want to hear about it at first. It took me about a month till I was really sort of receptive to hearing about, talking about having a God, my understanding in my life. And started working with a temporary sponsor down there. He was a kid. He was like half my, about 10 years younger than me, had 3 years of sobriety. That was a big difference. I'd always had, the old timers with 40 years who were my dad's age. But this kid had it when it came to, a program of attraction and somebody having what you want. He had what I wanted when it came to just that peace of mind and that, that just spiritual connection. And what he had me do again was keep an open mind, just be willing to do the next indicated actions, even if I don't understand. So we've talked in other videos. Step two is just keeping an open mind that there's something out there bigger than me that can restore me. And then step three is I don't understand what that thing is yet. But I do have the willingness to continue with the work with faith that more will be revealed along this journey. And that's sort of how it was. I remember we were in a big church in the upstairs level where like the band must practice, and it was about an hour before this big men's meeting. This is down in West Palm Beach when I was in treatment in 2015. I think at this point I was living in a halfway house, and it was myself and the sponsor and my sponsor at the time just talking about steps two and three and looking at instances where maybe God had been working in my life. Looking at my 40 years of existence at that point, situations where I thought I was lucky or some kind of cool coincidence saved me, or, maybe I chalked it up to my own ingenuity or cunning. But really looking at it objectively, there was probably something bigger out there protecting or looking out for me. And then starting to get into the service, trying to help others and carry the message. And that's really where I started to feel that power flow in. But that time in the church, where it was just him and I, um, an hour before 100 men would be filling the downstairs area. Um, I felt a presence in the room for the first time. I was 40 years old, again, raised Catholic, never felt anything like this. It was just my sponsor, myself, and I felt something else in the room. Literally, the hair on my arm stood up, and I had that, spine tingling sensation. And I knew at that moment that I think I was actually tapping into this higher power thing. And I started to feel relief and hope that I could get this thing. And it turned out I rode that wave real heavy and hard for 5, 6 years, and it was wonderful. Got away from it, from the program. It wasn't an overnight thing. It was an unraveling of about a year. And while I did not drink, I did fall into shoplifting relapse in May of 2022. And that's sort of where I am at now, recovering from that. Rounding out my recovery with um, I'd gotten away from 12 step completely the year leading up to that lapse. but I'm back in it, and you know, coming back to my higher power, I kind of turned my back and walked away for about 2 years. And I felt that loneliness, I felt that emptiness, I felt that fear returning. And I just know, I know I don't have to live that way anymore. This program, 12-step program, has taught me, um, yeah, maybe I'm powerless over my illness, but I am not powerless over the actions I take to find a connection to a higher power that is, necessary for the real alcoholic or addict to recover. The higher power stuff's important because if you're watching this and have experienced in recovery or loved ones, you probably know doing it for other people or doing it based on human ultimatums, if you're truly trapped in that vicious cycle of addiction, is not going to be enough. We need something bigger. So it's open-mindedness, willingness, simple actions that kind of help me grow spiritually. For example, focusing on a character defect each day and trying to practice turning that over. So the big one while in treatment was complaining. So today I'm just going to focus on being patient and not complaining. And when I feel the tension or blood boiling up, I'm just going to ask whatever conception of God I have to remove it. Um, so when I went down there to treatment, I was full of fear, facing prison time. My wife had seen, college sweetheart, had been visiting divorce attorney. Some would say she probably should have done that long before. Yeah, I had already blown up a career, was unemployed for almost 2 years because of just the drinking. Um, and none of those situations had changed by the time I was done with my 4 months of treatment in Florida. I was still coming back and having to face prison in two, court cases in two different counties where they wanted prison time. Um, I still had to rebuild a career, find something that I like doing. I still had to rebuild my own self-esteem and, of course, my relationships. But despite the situations not being changed, my internal state was. The fear had kind of shed away because I had connected to a power greater than me that I just called God out of convenience, but I could ask it for strength and courage and wisdom and, intuitive thought to do the next right thing when I needed it. And it was just there. It was just like having money in the bank, and when you need it, you grab it. And but again, we can lose that connection, just like we can lose our keys. They're keys to the kingdom, but they can be lost through complacency, inaction, getting back in our own head. Um, but there is an inner strength and peace that cannot be deeply shaken by bullshit when we are connected to a higher power, but it's through action and an open mind. There is a long period of reconstruction ahead, page 83 tells us, but the good news is we don't have to do it alone. Thanks for listening. Y'all take care. We'll see you soon.